Here we go. Got black this time. E4. Here, let's play Alekhine's defense. Oh my, I wonder if that's a real thing. I take, he can take here with check, and I take back, and then he can check and take the knight. I don't think so. I'm going to take it. I can check there. Let's see, I can block, and then he can check and take the knight. Can go here, and then he can check and take the knight. Yeah, so he gets the knight back either way. Where would I rather be? Well, if I block with the g-pawn, then I can develop my bishop after he takes. And if I move my king and block with the d-pawn, it opens up this diagonal. I think I'll drop back this way. And okay, that's not defended, so I can't play e5 or d5. I wanted to play d5 there. Can bring the queen out and then play d5. Could also develop my knight. Probably a reasonable thing to do. I just felt like it might be nice to have the queen in the area. And let's see where he puts his queen. Okay, do I want to play c5 before developing my knight, or should I just get my pieces out? Probably getting pieces out is the priority here. Looks like he wants to play d4. Yeah, so I guess, I mean, it's tempting to play a b6 and bishop c5, but since he just wants to play d4 anyway, I guess there's no sense, no point in helping him do that, right? And let's bring a rook over to the center. Okay, I'm making a little escape route for my king. I have the bishop pair, so if he wants to go into an endgame, I don't really mind. So I could play king h7, and if he checks, I can block with the queen. Just looking around to see if there are other checks. I mean, there is the knight check on g5, but I don't see that leading anywhere. And then I'm just going to bring my rook to the f file and the other rook to the e file and push forward towards his king and in the center there. So we'll start with this rook on the f file. Might even make sense to do a sacrifice there, an exchange sack, but he got his knight out of the way real quick. So here, let's take a look at that knight with the queen. If he checks again, I can block with the pawn. Let's see, if I play the pawn up to here to attack his knight, pawn g5, and then he can check with the queen. I can step back, but well, I could step to the side. Yeah, so pawn g5, queen check on the diagonal. The king could go to g7, and then the knight can't come into g6. That was what I was worried about there. Let's push that knight away. Doesn't have anywhere to go, actually, does it? So yeah, so he plays the check, of course. But the knight still doesn't have anywhere to go. So I think Naskam here, in his crazy attacking style, has gotten himself into trouble. He can sacrifice on g5, maybe. Give up a piece for a pawn. That doesn't work, right? Bishop takes, pawn takes, the knight still has no square to go to. Knight takes, queen takes. Then the knight can retreat safely, but I've won 2 pieces. So yeah, Naskam played that really fast too. He probably should have paused to think before some of those moves. So he hops in there with the knight. I'm going to take first with the knight and then with the bishop, or first with the bishop and then with the knight. I guess I'll try and keep the bishop pair advantage. Ah, you know what he did by that? He gave up a pawn, but he got to find a place for his knight. His knight has a place to retreat to now. So not bad. Instead of losing a whole piece, he just lost a pawn. So I'm thinking put the bishop here, but he will just trade it off, I guess. I think pull back and start pushing pawns in the center is the right strategy here. Or just developing and let him trade. Now let's keep the bishop. So yeah, I've got a strong center now, although he can try and keep my e-pawn backwards. So I do want to play c6 and e5, and I want to bring the other rook to the center. So just a question of the best order of moves there, or if there's some other opportunity that comes up. I do have to worry the pawns on the queen side could become loose. So maybe bringing the rook over first is a reasonable way to start. And then I can drop the bishop back to c8 if necessary to defend the b pawn. Still play c3 and or c6 and a6. Have a solid structure there, and then push this pawn forward. Everything's pointed at the king side or the center. Looks like a good setup. So I will start. Okay, so he starts with the undermining operation. You know, there's one advantage to playing c6 immediately. It's that I can play e5 with a threat to fork those 2 pieces. But first I have to deal with this, so I guess I push. I don't want to open things up in front of my king unnecessarily. Yeah, so maybe I'll do this in a different order then. I thought he'd drop back and attack my pawn. I was wondering how I was going to defend it. No, I think this is still good. c6, followed by e5, e4. He has to go back to e7 or e2 or c2, I guess. Oh, he could go to b3. Can't come forward. Can't go to f6, f3. So I ended up pushing the pawns first before bringing the rook over, but it seemed necessary to do something active with the pawns at that point. And it looks like I'll have time to bring the rook to the center. I gained a tempo with this move. I don't want to push on to e4 right away because that will give up these squares and his knight could hop in here. So let's keep that pawn on e4 for the moment. Just centralize my rook. Yeah, so this is what I was thinking of. Put these pawns on light squares. The bishop can drop back to c8 to defend this chain. His bishop has nothing to attack, and his queen will have very little to attack. And I do have to watch the dark squares. He's got that dark squared bishop. It could come in here, it would be dangerous. So I was happy he didn't attack this pawn because it might have forced me to push my h-pawn forward and it would have left a hole on g5. That was when I was attacking his knight. He came forward. He could have gone back to h2 and attacked the pawn from there, and I wasn't sure how I was going to defend it. If I pushed this pawn to open up a line for the bishop, then the d-pawn would have been hanging. Maybe I could have defended with the queen. I don't know. We could maybe look at that in the post-mortem. Okay, he's really taking his time now. Yeah, I suppose I should start to think about how I might make progress. I've got him bottled up for the moment. Yeah, he can do a nothing move, and I can do some nothing moves. I was wondering about trying to get in d4 as a way to make progress. He's really lined up to prevent it, though. He's got knight, bishop, and queen all looking at d4, and I just have queen and pawn. Okay, let's bring the bishop here. Maybe I can do something on the light squares with my bishop. Yeah. Now he's lining up against this piece over here. So there's a real danger of queen f3, right? Queen f3 threatens checkmate. He can take here with check. Then I just step to the side. He can take a rook, but then the very next move I checkmate him. I don't see how he stops it. So I'm going to play that. If I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, that's kind of a silly way to throw away a game, but I don't honestly see a way for him to defend against the checkmate. And you have to trust your calculations, and that's how you learn if they are correct. Of course, each step you should verify. You don't want to plunge blindly ahead, but I still do not see a follow-on check here or any way for him to stop me from just taking here. They can bring the knight in. But then I have the check on h1, which is also mate. So I was going to say he could bring the knight here to defend g2, but of course I can take the knight. But even better is just to checkmate on h1. Yep, he resigned. Okay, nice game. Let's check that out in the postmortem, and I will see you guys later. Bye.